How many times have I heard people say how terrible our hair is, how bad our hair is? We've been cursed to have hair such as this. Now, people often say that we shouldn't be talking about good or bad hair. And yeah, I kind of agree with that on a universal level. You can't say that for everyone a particular hair type is good or bad. But speaking as a designer, I mean, I practice as a designer. I studied design. I hold a master's degree in design. And I've taught design at university level for almost 40 years. So yeah, I can appreciate good design. So I have no problems referring to our hair as good hair because it is good design. Now, good design isn't just about looking pretty. If, you have something which is probably the most beautiful thing you've ever seen, but it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, what it was meant to do, what it was created to do, what it was designed to do, then that's bad design. Equally, you might have something that does what it's supposed to do, but you can't stand looking at the damn thing. Now, that's better design because it's still functional, but there's also that element of the aesthetic of what it looks like and feels like and so on. It's important. Getting that balance is what creates good design. And as I said, I have no problems describing our hair as good design. Why? Well, let's go back to why it was created. Just like our skin colour, our hair was there to protect us from the elements, namely the ultraviolet radiation of the sun. So our brown skin enables us to stay longer out in the sun than those with white skin. Yeah, we know we can still get sunburn, but we have to be out there for a while to get that. Our skin is protecting us. Our hair does the same. Our hair grows and naturally locks together, mats together. I don't have a problem saying that our hair is matted or nappy. It does that. It does that to protect the head from the sun's ultraviolet. It's almost like wearing a helmet, if you like. The hair follicles, or the strands of hair, are naturally flatter than, say, European hair. That enables it to twist and to curl. That allows it to kind of lock together. However, it doesn't lock at the roots. Now, when I first did my hair, I went to somebody and had them cut my hair off, or as low as possible, because I wanted it to lock right from the roots all the way up. Now, my hair is naturally quite straight. I come from an island where there's a large population of Native American peoples, Caribs. And there's a strong mix on that island because it was never really taken by the Europeans for their plantations. It only happened quite late, just a few years or decades or so before emancipation, because the Caribs kept the island free from Europeans. They were known as a warlike people. And because of that, they attracted Africans from all the neighbouring islands who came there and settled because it was free from the plantations. And they joined with the Caribs, whether you call them Black Caribs, Garifuna. We developed a race of people which is a mix between Native American and African blood. You can usually tell by that, the high forehead kind of thing. But it does mean that as a result of that, my hair is relatively straight naturally. So it didn't lock overnight like some people's can. It took a while to lock, but eventually it did. So it's not just a matter of whether your hair is tight or not. African hair will kind of locks. But like I said, it doesn't lock at the root. So having taken my hair off, it still became fuzzy at the root. In fact, for a year or so, my hair was just like a messy afro until it finally took. But it still wouldn't take at the roots. And anyone with locks knows that after a while, when the new hair grows out, it gets fuzzy at the roots, and you have to come to hair salon, like we have a hair salon, to get that treated if you want it to look as though it's locked at the roots. But there's a reason for this. That reason, also, the reason why our hair is more sparse than European hair. fewer hair follicles per square centimetre or square inch than you find with, say, European hair. So put those things together, the fact that it doesn't locks at the roots, it's quite straight, that there are fewer hair follicles, what that means is underneath that matted hair, there is space for air to circulate, space for air to keep the scalp cool, while the rest of the hair protects it from the sun's ultraviolet. Our hair tends to grow more perpendicular to the scalp at right angles coming out, which is why we could have things like Afro and so on, makes our hair stand out. That, combined with the fact that it doesn't really take in water in the same way, means that, as many people have found out, you go out in a shower of rain. Before I had locks, I had Afro. Go out in a shower of rain, so long as it's not too heavy, come in, shake your head, and the water's gone. The counter side to that is that it can mean that our hair can be quite dry because it doesn't take in water. Don't put grease on it though. Well, not when it's dry, because that'll block even more of the moisture from coming in. Do it when the hair's a bit damp or a bit wet, and that helps lock it in if you're worried about that. Because even though our hair is strong, a kind of tensile way, it can be quite brittle, which is why it can be so easily damaged by chemicals, by combs, be they hot combs or ordinary combs, and by constant restyling. So, yes, I've no problem saying that our hair is good hair. But if you take, I don't know, a good computer and use it to hammer nails into something, it's rubbish all of a sudden. It's useless. You know, this computer is absolutely useless. It won't even hammer one nail in, let alone 2 or 3. It only becomes bad hair when you try to do to it things it was never designed to do. It wasn't designed to be nice and flat and straight and flowing down. It wasn't designed to sit for years underneath a wig or a hat, as some people refer to it. I've seen people just come in, take their wig off, put it by the door as they're going out, take the wig off, slap it on their head. It looks stupid. Or people try to straighten their hair, and what they end up with basically a horse's tail on their head, this stiff thing that they think looks beautiful but doesn't, because they're trying to force their hair to do something it was never designed to do. Allow your hair to grow natural and it will be great. No, we don't have to comb it. It doesn't need to be combed. Somebody once said to me, if God didn't want us to comb our hair, why did he invent the comb? I kind of had to point out that I'm not sure, I can't say this for 100%, but I don't think that it was God who invented the comb. And people think things like Afro, natural hair. Well, if you're thinking of hair in a Eurocentric way, i.e. the hair strands and applying things, processes, chemicals and so to the strands, I suppose it is natural, more natural than, for example, relaxing the hair. But that's not taken into consideration the fact that our hair is more than just those hair strands. Our hair is a process. It wants to lock together. And when you prevent it from doing that, you're preventing it from being natural. So every time you drag that comb through it and suffer the pain, every time you drag that comb through it and find half of your hair stuck in the teeth, you're not keeping your hair natural. And, you know, people with Afro, how many times a day do they comb their hair? That's why, you know, it became common practice to walk with a pick. And of course, stylish to stick the pick in your hair. But you had to walk with it because you had to constantly keep combing it out. And if you missed a day or two, if you've got very tight, good hair, then, of course, it becomes painful as the hair tries to lock and you try to stop it from loxing and styling it. So yeah, maybe in a Eurocentric way, Afro was kind of natural. But in an Afrocentric way, it's not. We have one natural hairstyle. And it isn't a style. That's the important fact. Locks isn't a style. It's a hair type. And it's the manifestation, if you like, of a hair type. Which is why you can style it in 101 different ways. And again, another thing I hear from people, oh, I don't know what to do with my hair. Oh, I don't know how to look after natural hair. It's so hard. It's only hard because you've lost any sense of who you are over centuries of being influenced by European ideas of beauty and trying to get your hair to go the same way as those that you see in magazines and so on. You've lost any real understanding. Of course, added to that is the fact that for centuries, any knowledge of who we are, any understanding of self was literally beaten, raped, and tortured out of us. Europeans didn't want us to be Africans, because if we were, we might then stand up against them. Instead, convincing us that we are part of them, that we're black British or black American and so on, makes it easier for us to control us. Because they control that culture, those values, those ideals, those countries. And if we want to fit in, we have to do as they do. Whereas being African, they can't control us. They don't know our language, they don't know our religion, our culture, and it gives us a set of values and ideals that can question theirs, the ones they're trying to force upon us. And I suppose dreadlocks has become an outward expression of that, of not being European. So it's been identified as something political, which it can be, but it's not political in an aggressive sense. The base definition for me of politics is that which moves me forward. And if being your natural self helps you to move forward, then you could say it's political. But you can't assume that everyone with dreadlocks is making a political statement, because they're not. They're just allowing their hair to grow naturally. And if more of us did that, then there'd be less of this, oh, they want to touch my hair. Oh, they keep asking me, oh, what's your hair like? Oh, how do you do it? Do you plait it every day? Well, they do that because it's so rare. I mean, it's not like we're rare. You see black people everywhere. But how often do you see them with anything but wig, straight hair or afro? Or afro hair. So it is kind of strange, weird. But if more African people, black people if you prefer, wore their hair natural, it wouldn't be so strange. And people wouldn't really want to come up and keep touching it, because perfectly normal. And also those who are sent home from school or sent home from work or afraid of what their boss would say or even what their family would say if they grew locks, that wouldn't be an issue, because people would be more educated, know about it, see it more, and so on. So yes, our hair has a purpose, a beautiful purpose. It's not bad hair. It only becomes bad if you try to force it to do what it didn't want to do. And to a certain extent, that kind of reflects our experience of centuries of being forced to do what we didn't want to do. The only difference is we are now, if you like, the slave masters of our hair.